Welcome to the Dan Casper Show podcast, your chance to catch the full show anytime, anywhere. If you missed it live on the radio, no worries. We've got you covered with all the sports talk, opinions, interviews, and conversations from the show. From the Packers to the Brewers to the biggest stories in sports and around Wisconsin, it's all right here. This is the Dan Casper Show podcast. It is the final hour on this Tuesday morning of April 21st. Thanks for hanging out with us all morning long, everybody. We appreciate you. Coming up, we'll get back to a little bit more draft talk with the NFL draft set to kick off in just 2 days from now. Packers obviously won't be picking until Friday, but we'll get back to a little bit more of that chat. Continue to send in your Toys and Ford at Grind My Gears Tuesday. What's grinding your gears this morning? We'll get to some more of your texts and such, but we got Brewers in action tonight. 5:40 first pitch. You can listen to that game right here on the radio dials of 105.1 FM and 790 AM with pregame coverage at about 5:05. And to talk some Brewers with us here this morning is our very good friend, Mr. Hunter Baumgardt, who is Brewers reporter for Fox Sports Radio at 920 in Wisconsin. He is also the host of the baseball pregame show and Milwaukee Baseball Tonight. Hunter, how goes it, sir?
Very well, Dan. Thanks so much for having me back, and looking forward to another series. See if the Brewers can win their third series in a row.
Yeah, I mean, it's not often, you know, we talk about a team, you just mentioned it, third series in a row, they're coming off of a series win, but they're in last place in the division with a winning record at 12-9. I mean, this NL Central, we got a lot of baseball left to be played, but early goings, dude, it sure looks like it's going to be a battle throughout the rest of this season.
It does. I'm interested to see who has the staying power. You know, obviously, I think coming into the year, we all thought Brewers and Cubs were at the top of this division, but it kind of felt like only a matter of time until the Reds started to put it together. I've always thought with the Reds, it's believe it when I see it, and you started to see it a little bit last year, making the postseason. They just snuck in, but they got in the postseason nonetheless, and I think they're trying to build off of that this year. Their bullpen has been really good so far in Cincinnati so far. And look, they're at a 15-8 mark. That's one of the best records in baseball, not just the NL Central, but the National League. So they're a team that I think could have staying power. The Pirates are one that I just don't know if I see. You know, they've had Aprils like this before, and it's interesting because, you know, throughout a season, you take parts of the season in a 20, 25, 30 game stretch, and you say, oh, the Brewers are 12-9 over the last 21 games. But when it's the first 21 games, you look at the record just as the record, because that is the record at the moment. So the Pirates could go 13-9 again at some point this season, but that doesn't mean they're necessarily going to be in a playoff race, you know, later in the season. So I do think it's a talented division. I think the division got better than it was last year, but I am interested to see how it shakes out when we get towards, you know, that Memorial Day, June-ish, because I do think some of the cream is going to rise to the top there.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. I want to go back to Friday and the debut of Coleman Crow, and I mean the breaking stuff, the curveball and such. That dude was just on fire, and I know some fans were like, well, why is he being sent back down? It's a numbers game and such. But I mean, the way he pitched, Hunter, would it be surprising if we don't see him at all again this year at the major league level?
Yeah, it definitely feels that way. It feels like one of those guys who gets their chance, showed out, really impressive, and is going to get their chance again at some point. Like you said, it's a numbers game. They wanted to get a fresh arm for the weekend, and Carlos Rodriguez up from the minor leagues. He was able to provide you with some bullpen innings on Sunday. And so that's really, at that time, that's what they needed. And with Kyle Harrison rejoining the rotation tonight, it just didn't make sense to keep him. I mean, that was the only reason he got the start, was because they wanted to push Kyle Harrison back, who had some soreness in that wrist from that weird play with Gary Sanchez at first base in his last outing. So they pushed him back, 4 days or so, and he'll get to start tonight, which is good. But that was so impressive. You saw that the curveball is as advertised. That was really something special to watch, and I'm excited to see what he can do at the major league level in the future. The wild part is the Brewers just have such a good starting pitching staff right now. I mean, they've got, over their last 9 games, none of their starters have allowed more than 2 earned runs. And when you think about how good that is, over that time, their starters have a 2.40 ERA. So really, there's no one that you'd replace him with right now. You say, oh, well, Brandon Sproat struggled to start the year. Well, he's clearly starting to figure some things out and had a great outing against the defending AL champs last Thursday in that series finale against Toronto. And then, we'll see what Kyle Harrison can do tonight. Chad Patrick has arguably been your best starting pitcher so far. Mizorowski leads baseball in strikeouts coming into last night. So, you have all of these guys, and obviously Woodruff with the dominant outing on Saturday, 7 innings of 1-run ball. So you don't have a spot for Coleman Crowe right now, but boy, I would, like I said, I would be surprised if we don't see him again in the major leagues this year.
Hunter, where would this team be without the offensive performance so far from both Bryce Turang and William Contreras to begin this year?
Yeah, I don't think they'd be 12-9, to be honest with you. I think they've look, when you have 3 of your top 5 offensive players out in Chourio, Yelich, and Vaughn, you need the other 2 of those 5 to perform, and not that they have to be making up for Yelich and making up for Chourio, making up for Vaughn, but boy, they need to be themselves, and that's what they have been this year. Turang has carried the power over. He's been clutch. He's just given you great at-bat after great at-bat. William Contreras has been doing the same thing as well. Kind of, they had a game off his feet on Sunday, did the little, the pinch hit at the end of the game, but otherwise good to get him a little rest into the off day because that guy would love to play every single day if you let him, but obviously you want to be careful as it's still April. But boy, those 2 have been key to that offense because clearly you're struggling in other parts of that offense. And you're needing your stars to be stars, basically, I think is the best way to put it. And with those 3 out, they have been so key to why the Brewers are 12-9. And you look at, like I said, the last 9 games of starting pitchers and what they've done, and you say, well, how can they be they're like 4-5 in their last 9 games or something like that, maybe 5-4, something like that. Well, they'll be 4-5 probably because they had the losing streak. So you look at that and you say, well, how could they lose some games, with the starters having a 2.40 ERA? Well, the offense and the bullpen, the bullpen hasn't been as good as it was last year. The offense has been struggling. I mean, just to put it plainly, without Chourio, Vaughn, and Yelich. But boy, Turang and Contreras are keeping this team afloat, and that's what this offense needs to do without their star players. Just keep this team afloat, keep them in ball games, and then finally get those guys back, hopefully, in with Chourio, hopefully early May, and with Vaughn and Yelich, mid to late May.
Staying with the offense, I mean, you look at the numbers. This is a team that walks a lot. This is a team that doesn't strike out a lot, and they steal a bunch of bases and such. I got a feeling old school baseball fans have to love what they're seeing here, but they're incredibly aggressive. I mean, not often do you see a team that lays down 3 bunts in a row like we saw last weekend and such, but I mean, is it just straight up Murphy ball, or is this the type of offense that they have to do because Chourio and Yelich and Vaughn are missing time?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both because I think we've definitely seen it over the last couple of years, this team take on this identity of that type of play, the stolen bases. They led the National League last year in stolen bases, although the number of stolen bases and the success rate went down from the year before. They get rid of Julio Borbon as their first base coach. Borbon goes somewhere else within the organization. They bring in Spencer Allen. Immediately, that stolen base number is going up and the success rate is going up. And I think there is a clear correlation there, and they are being aggressive because that's the way Pat Murphy wants it. I mean, he went into this offseason clearly saying our stolen base numbers weren't good enough in 2025. And you think about that and you say, well, you still led the National League in stolen bases. He's like, yeah, but it's not good enough. And so he brought in Spencer Allen. He's raved about what Spencer Allen has done. And that has made a difference. And that can win you games when you have a situation where you steal second and then you get to third in the wild pitch and then you score. That's a clear run. I think that happened, if I'm not mistaken. Garrett Mitchell might have grounded into an out on Sunday's game when they were down 3-0, but Hamilton had gotten on first and stole second and got third in the wild pitch, and all of a sudden he's home on a ground ball. I mean, that is how they put pressure on teams and how they need to right now. You mentioned the 3 bunts. This team, with the way their offense is structured right now, they just need to score anyway, anyhow. Friday night's game was a good example of that, of how they put pressure on the Marlins, and then the Marlins start making some mistakes. And that's the type of stuff we also saw when they were going through their 8-2 stretch and had Yelich in the lineup, because that is the way this team plays. But I think it's even more of kind of a magnifying glass on it because you don't have that power in that lineup right now of Yelich, Churion, and Vaughn. When you look at what those guys do in the lineup, yes, they bring in runs, yes, they get on base, but that's a lot of power you're missing from that lineup. And so how are you going to make up for that? Via the stolen base, via the aggressiveness on the base paths, via the bunting, manufacturing runs. And we all know Pat Murphy loves that style of ball. And so I think you'll continue to see that.
We're talking with Hunter Baumgardt from Fox Sports 920 Milwaukee, host of the baseball pregame show and Milwaukee Baseball Tonight. Taking a look at the left side of that infield, Joey Ortiz, Hamilton, Luis, and such. Is there a little bit? We got Cooper Pratt, who's coming off that extension and such, and given kind of the production we're seeing from the left side of the infield, is there a little pressure mounting that maybe we need to or the Brewers need to make a change over there, whether it's calling up Cooper Pratt? I know Pat Murphy mentioned Tyler Black the other day, but I don't know if he would be a third base option. But is that something that this Brewers team needs to take a look at, maybe more so from the offensive side?
Yeah, it is that offensive side right now that's struggling with Ortiz, with Hamilton. I mean, Hamilton also made the error that kind of, prolonged that first inning for Jacob Wizarowski on Sunday afternoon. So that was a blunder on defense. So you wonder, okay, if Hamilton and Ortiz have about the same bat, maybe you put Ortiz in there to save you some runs on defense. Not that Hamilton's bad defensively, but Ortiz is an elite defender and he saves runs, with the best of them. So I think there is some pressure just because, coming into the year, I kind of thought, okay, with Joey Ortiz, the leash is probably, okay, you give him till probably at least Memorial Day, see what he can do on the offensive side. But then they did sign Cooper Pratt, right around that opening day time. And so then you think, okay, is this a situation where they see him sooner in the major leagues than maybe we had thought? He's not been off to a great start offensively in Nashville. I think they're going to want him to get more experience. So I don't think they make that type of move really until late May. I think they're going to give this time, give Ortiz hopefully a chance to kind of rebound. But again, you're seeing more and more of this sample size of Joey Ortiz's offense, and you're saying, okay, I mean, at what point have we seen enough that's the type of guy he is? Now, he's also working really hard. I saw him last homestand working well before the game with assistant hitting coach Daniel Vogelbach and really working on different things with his swing and just different ways to try to get things going. Pat Murphy keeps talking about how Joey Ortiz is working at it. But, at some point they are going to have to make a decision. And then you have the third base position, which goes, well, Luis Rengifo was 0 for 20. He snapped that, had a better series in Miami, which is good. You're going to need him to produce. So it's tough when you have that left side of the infield. That can be fairly good defensively. Like, I don't think you really can shake your head at what they've done defensively on that side of the infield. But offensively, they've hardly given you anything, and you can't have that many holes in the lineup, especially with the injuries earlier in the season. So I think the leash continues with these guys, but I'm interested to see at what point do they say, okay, enough is enough here. And that may be mid to late May. But again, that may be when those stars come back and you're thinking, oh, well, maybe we should have done something earlier. So I'm fascinated to see because they're kind of showing that the players that they are, especially Joey Ortiz.
Yeah, and where does a guy like Jet Williams fit into this? Because in Nashville, he's either playing like center field or third base, at this point, or DHing. Yeah,
that's an interesting one, too. I mean, when he was first acquired, and I asked Matt Arnold if Jet Williams has ability at third base and is something, they could do. And he said, yeah, we think he has the ingredients for that. So I am not surprised just because I feel like they probably thinking they're pretty set on their middle infield. But then they could put Jet maybe over there at third base. I mean, I kind of thought that Jet would be called up at some point here in, not too far into the season, just because you got him in that Freddie Peralta deal. You want to see what he can do. He's not off to a fantastic start, but at what point do you just say you try something different at the major league level? Tyler Black, like you mentioned, is also another guy. He's off the injured list now. He's been hurt, so I think that's been obviously that's a reason why he has not been called up. I think he would have been called up well earlier. I think he would have been probably the Greg Jones call up when Yelich went on the IL. I think that would have been Tyler Black. Had Tyler Black been not injured, and he's a lefty too, so that would have been lefty for a lefty as far as Yelich and Black goes. So I think he does come up soon. I think if Greg Jones especially doesn't do much here in the next couple of games, you could see Tyler Black maybe even by the weekend. But I don't think he's a third base option because it's from the sounds of it, from what Pat Murphy has said, from what we've heard, it does not sound like Tyler Black is probably an option at third. So then you put him probably at first, and that allows you to, put Rengifo back at third because Rengifo is playing some first base. So it's kind of all works together a little bit, but it's a little bit all over the place. And Gary Sanchez, when we've seen him at first base, we've all kind of, hid under the coffee table because we're not really sure what we're going to get there at those times. So, they're in a weird spot roster construction wise right now, and they just kind of have to navigate this the best they can. I would think Tyler Black is probably the next call up from the minor leagues. And then Jet Williams is kind of the wild card here because you got him in that trade, and I'm eager to see what they do with him.
All right, last question before I let you go here, Hunter. Obviously, we're getting set for a series against another American League team with the Tigers. Obviously, a very talented Tigers team coming, or Brewers going over there. They do face Tariq Skubal on the back end of this, but what is it? What do you think are some of the main keys for the Brewers to go in there before returning home to take on the Pirates to go to Detroit and win this series?
Yeah, like you said, it's win the series. That is exactly what this team needs to do. Somehow, some way, I don't think the way this team is constructed, it was great they won 4 in a row and kind of got 4 of those 6 losses back, so to speak, in that winning streak, which was good. But I don't know if I see this team, the way it's constructed, going on such a winning streak, a big winning streak right now. So I'd say, hey, go and just win series. Win your 3rd series in a row, take 2 of 3. And with Skubal on Thursday, you kind of say, okay, you might want to take tonight and tomorrow, and then, take your chances on Thursday and see what happens. But again, this starting rotation keeps you in baseball games. And so if that's going to be the case, then I think you say, all right, you have a chance in every game. If your starters are keeping you in ball games, you're going to have a chance. Yes, is it heartbreaking when your bullpen gives it up late? Like a Friday night, with Angel Serpa, or obviously McGill struggles in the last homestand, but it's not fun when that happens. However, if your starting pitching is doing what they have done in the last 9 games, you're going to have a chance in these games. So I would say look out for the starting pitchers to do what they've been doing, and hopefully you get just a little more production offensively. Sal Frelick is a guy who started to come out of it a little bit in Miami. I have a feeling he's not fully healthy, just the way he's just kind of his body language. I saw him at first base after one of his hits in Miami, and he's kind of adjusting and you remember he left that game against Kansas City a couple weeks ago with the side soreness, and I just feel like he's probably not playing fully healthy. Now, this is a guy that goes all out all the time, so I feel like he's maybe never fully healthy because he's just always, you love the type of player he is, and Pat Murphy's like, that guy's a battler, and I know he's going to come out of this, but obviously he has not been great to start the season. And hopefully that move to the leadoff spot has helped him maybe a little bit mentally, as Pat Murphy has said too, just talking about he's that kind of player that says, okay, Pat Murphy knows that, okay, I'm going to put you in the leadoff spot, just get on base. And that's a really clear message to Frelick, and he usually does well with that. And he's done better since he's been moved to the leadoff spot here in the last few games. So I think a key is him continuing to get better and better here and to continue to get hotter and hotter. I think that's key for this offense. And then the bullpen, Trevor McGill continued what he's done the last 2 outings. Abner Uribe continued to be that guy, probably their closer in that 9th inning right now. So it's that offense and that bullpen, and I think you can look at a series win in Detroit.
He's Hunter Baumgardt. You can catch him the baseball pregame show in Milwaukee. Baseball tonight, Fox Sports 920 in Milwaukee. Dude, appreciate it as always, man. Keep up the fantastic work. You're an awesome follower. Everybody on Twitter, X, make sure you're following Hunter, and on Facebook too. We appreciate your time, man, and enjoy the week until next time we talk to you, bud.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dan. Always appreciate it. We'll talk again soon.
You got it. There you go. There's Hunter. Good stuff as always, breaking everything down for us when it comes to the Brewers. So we always appreciate Hunter taking some time here and always catching up with us in the Chippewa Valley. All right, we got to take a quick break, but we'll be right back in just a couple minutes. Big thanks again to Hunter for joining us. If you missed any portion of that conversation, reminder, we've got two podcasts that are out there now. The Man Cave podcast, original content. Once in a while, we'll throw an interview on there. Like, we're going to put Hunters on the Man Cave podcast, but it'll also be on the DK Show podcast, where we break it down every hour. So if you've missed an hour or a portion of an hour, just look up the Dan Casper Show podcast, and every hour of the program is up there, available in podcast form, wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, our YouTube station, all that stuff. So, and it's posted up on Facebook and Twitter as well once a new episode is uploaded. So, yeah, if you ever miss any time, any interviews or segments or such, make sure you're following along to the DK Show podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Draft is just a couple days away as we are getting set for one of my favorite times of the year is the NFL draft. I love the NFL draft. And honestly, it's a little bit different this year because, well, one, Green Bay does not have a first-round pick. But I honestly feel like I might enjoy the first round for the first time in a long time because Green Bay doesn't have a pick. I don't have to sit there and stress and have to watch the board kind of fall. I'm coming from it from a fan perspective here. Like, oh, is that guy going to slide? Oh, no, they grabbed the guy that I wanted. Or, what's the tradition that we've had for a long time as Packers fans, griping about the first-round pick, where we're upset. How many times on a Friday morning have we come on and it's like, yep, we're all upset about that pick. Don't have to worry about that unless somehow Goody pulls a rabbit out of his hat and trades up into the first round. Don't think that's going to happen. So I'm approaching this first round like, hey, all right, I can kind of kick back, relax, watch the picks flow, watch some of the moves, some of the trades, and see who's potentially going to be available in the second round. Obviously Green Bay's not going to be picking early in the second round. It's going to be number 52 in that, but I'm kind of I think I'm going to like it. Now, I'm not saying I don't want every year where Green Bay doesn't have a first-round pick, but it's going to be a little bit of, I think, it's going to be different. Even when they traded out of the infamous TJ Watt draft, even when they didn't have a first-round pick, they traded out of that. We went in thinking, we went in knowing they had a first-round pick. So let me look this up. Besides that, Packers draft history. Okay. So besides the 2017 draft, because that was a 2017 draft, right? 27. Besides that, what was the last time Green Bay did not have a first-round pick? That would be, might be a good trivia question, actually, to throw it out there. So 2008 again, because they traded back out, and they got Jordy Nelson. That was the Jordy Nelson. They had three second-round picks. Brian Braun was the other one. Justin Harrell, A.J. Hawk, Aaron Rodgers, Ahmad Carroll, Nick Barnett, Javon Walker. I mean, this is actually going into the draft, though, and not having a first-round pick is pretty darn rare for Green Bay. Holy moly, yeah, like 89, 88, 87. Okay, 86, they drafted Kenneth Davis in the second round. So, yeah, it's rare. It's incredibly rare, especially for a franchise throughout generations now, going back to the Ron Wolf, they build through the draft. So, but it's going to be different. It'll probably be a lot less stressful for me, as a fan, for a lot of us. However, does that mean it's less stressful for one Brian Gutekunst and this Packers front office? I say no. I say it's going to be more stressful for those guys instead of less stressful. Why? I've got my theory. I've got my thoughts. I've got my opinion. And I'll tell you that. But we got to play a little catch up here after our quick chat with Hunter here. So let's do that. We'll take a really quick break here, and I'll make the case why, and we can say this for every year, every quarter, or every general manager, every team. Every draft is important. Every draft is pivotal, crucial, however you want to phrase it. But this one more so, I think, for Goody. Let me explain. But we'll take a quick break and be right back after these few words. A little bit of NBA news that may or may not affect the Milwaukee Bucks in terms of their coaching search. But Billy Donovan will not be going back to be the head coach for the Chicago Bulls. So I don't know if the Bucks would have any interest in Billy Donovan becoming their head coach. But throughout his 11-year career, he's already been in the NBA for 11 years. But first off, obviously with the OKC Thunder and then Chicago here, 5 seasons with OKC, 6 with Chicago. He is overall 469 wins, 413 losses, 19 and 27 playoff record. The majority of those coming with Oklahoma City. He was in the postseason every year when he was the head coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Made the postseason once with the Bulls back in 2021, 2022. So had a 608 winning percentage with the Thunder, just 469 win percentage with the Bulls. So again, I don't know if that's something that the Bucks would be interested, or if Billy Donovan would be interested in going to the Bucks. But remember, I wonder. Okay, I remember that. Just because we were talking about Taylor Jenkins here a little bit, and one of the teams that might throw a wrench into the Bucks' plans of potentially hiring Taylor Jenkins if they wanted to, was the Orlando Magic. And me being a Orlando Magic fan as a kid, I remember Billy Donovan kind of pulled Josh McDaniels from the Orlando Magic, because he initially was hired by the Orlando Magic to be their head coach in 2007 for a hot minute, and then he backed out. So, and it was, he even had the introductory press conference. He had the introductory press conference June 1st. The next morning, he began having second thoughts. I'm reading this a little bit here. And then on June 6th, he left and then goes back to Florida. Wins a couple national championships. So, wouldn't that be something if he goes back to the Orlando Magic there? Oh, man, I forgot about that. Forgot about that for a hot second. I still remember watching that presser. Billy Donovan with the Orlando Magic, and then a few days later, whoop, gone. Decided to leave. Outie. But, we'll see. Okay, so how much, every general manager, every front office is under pressure when it comes to the draft. I mean, this is the culmination of a year's work for all these scouts, for all these front office people, for these general managers. Call it their Super Bowl, call it whatever they want. This is the pinnacle. This is where all that work, now you turn it into the boss, and we'll see how it plays out. The only thing is your grade, you may not find out what your grade is right away, right? You know, when we hear about this with rookies and such, give it a couple years. You know, we can't grade the draft class until, maybe a couple of years down the road. But all season long, even during the regular season, these scouts, this is their time. This is what they're doing during the season leading up to this moment. The picks on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Probably more specifically the picks on Friday and Saturday, rounds 2 through 7. So they're always under pressure. This is their jobs at stake. But from Goody's perspective, we've been talking about ever since, the end of the Super Bowl, getting into the offseason, the combine, free agency, and then we get into the draft. We talk about what the positions of need for Green Bay, who they should go after, what positions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We haven't really talked about the GM himself. And looking at this draft, he's got a new contract. He's not on the hot seat. But I think you can make the case that he's under a unique level of pressure this year, because we know the window is now. When you trade 2 first-round picks, you're not going to have a first-round pick for 2 years. It's the first of 2 years. You have set that bar, that window, that timeline. You have created a timeline that we got to win now. When you trade away those 2 first-round picks, you have purposely created the timeline that we've got to win now. And that puts more pressure on, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, that puts more pressure on you to go out there and find guys now in rounds 2 through 7 that can help you out today. Not 2 years from now, today. Guys that you could put out there on the field and will help you win ball games. Not somebody that's going to develop and 3 years from now is going to be a starter, or you hope is going to be a starter. That's one thing I hope to see in this draft, that we're talking about guys that are going to be ready to play. Because let's be real, let's be honest. I know some people say, well, everybody that's picked should be ready to play. Sure, yes, but we also know that there's going to be picks. And a lot of them may be in the first round, but there's going to be picks where, okay, that potential is there. You could read the scouting reports. Boom or bust project. Boom or bust pick. Or high ceiling. Just hasn't hit it yet. It needs to work on this. Needs to do this. But, the potential is there. For me, I don't know if I would necessarily want the boom or bust picks this year. I just want guys that, okay, you could throw them out there on the field and they're going to help you win a ball game today. Maybe a little bit more polished. Maybe you're going to be suffering, or maybe you got to sacrifice a little bit in terms of potential. You got two players here, okay? Player A, sky's the limit. Could be a future Pro Bowler, could be a future starter, could be a future star. You don't know. Might take a couple years, though. You got to develop him a little bit more, right? You got to work with him, and you just got to be a little patient with him. But the reward could be great. Player B. You kind of already know what you got with him. Maybe he's already hit the ceiling. He's a solid player, and he can help you out right now. Which one do you want for this Packers team? This current Packers team. Are you willing to wait a couple years for a guy? He can get you snaps now. It's not like he's going to be benched, but is he going to hit, or is he going to play at a high level? Probably not. Might go through some growing pains. Or do you want that guy right now that, okay, I could put him out there day one? I kind of know what I'm going to get with him. He's probably not going to be an all-pro, but he's going to be a really solid player. I might go B for this particular draft, for this particular team right now with Green Bay. Because you have created that timeline. You have created kind of that shot clock, or whatever, the play clock. You got to win now. And you got to go out there, and it's not just winning regular season games. You got to win playoff games. You got to win championship. So I think that's where I look at this as kind of an intriguing, very interesting direction and where maybe Goody goes with this. Because we know they've got holes, right? Defensive tackle, defensive line, corners, offensive line depth. And I wouldn't be surprised, depending on how the draft goes, if Green Bay signs some veterans to a one-year deal to kind of fill in the spots that they didn't necessarily address in the draft. But they have got to find those. And I want to see something similar from a couple of years ago when, in the second round, they drafted Edgerrin Cooper, Javon Bullard. Fourth round was Evan Williams. Guys that were on the field right away and guys that helped out right away. And they continue to get better too, but guys that you just kind of, like, they were out there already making plays. That's kind of what I want to see in this draft. We've seen it, from an offensive line standpoint. They do a good job. They find these offensive linemen later on, and they're able to go out there. But now I want to see it from maybe a D tackle, maybe a corner, and some other positions too. That's what I want to see from this draft. And that's where I feel like we could maybe make the case just a little bit that, maybe under a little bit of pressure. Pressure's a privilege. Pressure's a good thing. But when you trade those two picks, you embrace the pressure. You welcome the pressure, and you create that timeline on yourself. You could just coast. Continue with what you got, build your team that way, and hope what's best. But once you make that move, like Goody did to trade for Parsons, 2 first-rounders, all right, you just set the stakes up a little bit higher, and you put a little bit more pressure on yourself. And I'm okay with that. You gamble. Now, you got to have to gamble here a little bit too. Maybe go a little bit outside the norm that you would in a potential draft. Maybe you draft a little bit for players that you kind of already know what you got with them. Guys that can help you out right away over guys that might take a little bit to develop. Because you got to win now. If you do that, if you get those guys, it's up to your coaching staff. Then you hand the baton. The baton right now is in Goody's hands. What is he going to do in these next couple days to help improve this team, to make them a team that can compete for championships like he called out 2 years ago? This is his moment to shine. And he's got to hit it. He's got to nail this draft. All right, let's take a break and we'll wrap it up. We got some picks, baseball, hoops, hockey, all that fun stuff. We'll be right back in just a couple minutes. Wrapping up this Tuesday show with some picks. Let's begin with the Stanley Cup playoffs, where last night we saw Philadelphia take it out Pittsburgh to take a 2-0 lead in their series. Carolina also picking up a victory in double overtime against Ottawa. They lead that series 2-0. The Dallas Stars able to get a victory over the Wild to even up that series at 1 apiece. And then Edmonton defeated the Ducks to take a 1-0 lead in their series. Today, we've got Montreal taking on Tampa Bay, I should say. Tonight, Montreal leads the series 1-0. I'm going to go Tampa Bay with the victory tonight. Boston at Buffalo. I'm going to go Buffalo, baby. Utah at Vegas. Buffalo leads that series, by the way. So Utah at Vegas. Vegas leads the series 1-0. I'm going to go with Vegas again. And then the Kings taking on Colorado. Colorado leading that series 1-0. I am going to go with Colorado. Let's go to the NBA, where last night we saw Cleveland picking up another win to take a 2-0 lead in their series over to Toronto. Atlanta taking down the Knicks to tie that series up at 1 apiece. And then Minnesota defeating the Denver Nuggets to tie that series at 1 apiece. Tonight we've got Philadelphia at Boston. I'm going to roll with Boston. Portland at the Spurs. I'm going to go with the Spurs. And then Houston taking on the Lakers. Lakers leading that series 1-0. I'm going to go Houston for this one. I think Houston ties that series up. So, some baseball picks. We've got Houston taking on Cleveland. Houston picked up the 9-2 victory last night. I will go with Cleveland tonight. Cincinnati at Tampa Bay. The Reds picked up a win last night. Let's go Tampa. St. Louis at Miami. Miami picked up a win last night, but you know what? I'll go Miami again tonight with Chris Paddock on it. Why not? Atlanta taking on Washington. Give me the Braves. We've got Yankees taking on the Boston Red Sox. I will go with the Yankees. Twins taking on the Mets. At some point, the losing streak has to stop for the Mets, right? So I'll go with the Mets tonight. Baltimore at Kansas City. Baltimore picked up a 7-5 victory in extra innings last night. I'm going to go Baltimore again tonight. Philadelphia at the White Sox, at the Cubbies. Luzardo versus Imanaga. Oh, man. Again, at some point, the losers got to stop. Come on, Phillies. Let's go. Pittsburgh taking on the Rangers. Come on, Rangers, help us out. I'll go with Texas. Padres taking on the Rockies. I'm going to go with the Padres. Toronto taking on the Angels. I'll go Blue Jays for this one. Athletics taking on the Mariners. Are the Athletics top in their division right now? I'll go with the Mariners tonight. White Sox taking on the Diamondbacks. I'll go with the Diamondbacks. The Dodgers and Giants. Give me the Dodgers. Milwaukee versus Detroit. You know what? Kyle Harris on the mound. He's gotten a little extra rest. Let's go with the Brew Crew. Especially, I think, Brewers, you got to win the series, and your best chance might be the first two games. So when you got Tariq Skubal coming up on the mound in the third game of this series. So, all right, those are your picks for this morning. Coming up tomorrow, we got a busy day tomorrow. All right, so Ty from Slab Factory is going to be joining us for our Inside the Hobby. So we'll do a little bit of that. It's the day before the draft, so we'll talk a little more football. Hopefully we're talking about a Brewers win as well, and previewing game 2, and hopefully setting up for a potential series win for the Brew Crew. So that's on your docket. Also, since it's a Wednesday, it'll be a Mike's Star Market. Am I wrong? This is your homework assignment. Think about your sports statements that you would say, am I wrong for saying this? Am I wrong for saying that? A Hy-Vee game changer for the last week or so. What was a play? What was a player? A move where you're like, Man, that was a game changer, dude. That was a game changer. So that's your homework assignment. Give me your Hy-Vee game changers and give me your Mike Star Markets. Am I wrong? All right. So that we'll hit that up tomorrow. And then, of course, a little bit more draft talk as we'll be a day away. We'll recap what Goody had to say, if he had anything substantial to say. Could be just typical GM speak, which is probably the most likely thing to happen. And then tomorrow, I'm going to want your final calls. No, since they only have first round, we'll give it a couple days yet. But hopefully later on today, Brandon, waiting on one more mock draft to come. Then we'll put up our mock draft podcast later on today. So, but check it out. That'll be Man Cave Podcast, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Big thanks to RJ for joining us this morning to break down all things Badger hoops and Badgers, and of course Hunter to talk some Brewers with us. If you missed any of those conversations, they are up in podcast form. You can check it out, the Day at Casper Show podcast, or Hunter's interview will be also in the Man Cave podcast. Again, wherever you get your podcasts, if you could just be a friend and tell a friend, 5-star rating and a positive review like on Apple, because that helps the algorithms, that helps the computer peeps out there spread the good word of the Man Cave podcast. So I will tell you, for our card giveaway tomorrow, it is going to be a football one. All right, it's going to be football related because of the NFL draft coming your way on Thursday. So get ready for that. Might be a rookie one too. That's your tease. So I'll make it a little bit easier. Might be draft trivia. Packers draft trivia. So get ready for this tomorrow. All right, and we'll do that. I'll tell you the question, the 8 o'clock hour tomorrow, just to give you a heads up. Have a good rest of your day.